Almost 1 year ago today, I traveled solo through China for 35 days. And in this video, I want to show you that trip and I want to show you some learnings along the way. And if you're thinking about solo traveling, I also want to give you some tangible advice and some things you might learn along the way. So China is quite a big country and I had quite an ambitious schedule of visiting many cities. I will show you the route on screen here. I don't think I would have been able to make that trip if I weren't solo, because the pace of it is very quick. And I think that is also one of the main advantages of traveling solo. You're able to travel whenever, wherever you want, which is just totally up to you. So for me, I had a pretty ambitious schedule, and in some cities I was only for 2 days, and yeah, in some cases that was a little bit of a bummer. For instance, in Chengdu, I would have liked to stay there a little bit longer. It was a really fun city, but those things you also learn along the way. And if I had even made myself a little bit more flexible, I maybe would have been able to stay in some cities a little bit longer. But since I had my train tickets already booked, because I wanted to be well prepared, obviously, I didn't get to spend more time there. But it's great to be able to have that flexibility of just, oh, I want to stay in a city for just 2 days and then go. It's way easier if you're alone. You can just go to any attraction as you please and skip the ones you don't like. Maybe you don't want to go there to the main attraction. And this freedom of pace is really something that I really like about solo travel. You can basically choose where to go, when to go, and especially also you can take rests whenever you want to take a rest. For instance, in some days, I just wanted to sleep in, and that was totally possible because I was solo. I didn't really have a fixed plan, and obviously it's a lot easier to do this if you are solo than traveling with a group. It also made me realize, I don't think this is something that is just applied to solo traveling, that you don't have to visit everything that is like the top thing to visit. In some cities, I didn't go to the main tourist destination and just selected a few that I found the most attractive to me. This is something that I've in the past always wanted to do. I wanted to visit as many things which were notable, so to say. I think this is also something that just comes with the realization of that, well, outside of the main tourist attractions, there's many cool attractions, and especially if you want to get to know the culture a little bit better, those are the places to be, obviously. I also think solo travel is perfect for discovering yourself. It's really, well, kind of raw to be thrown back onto solo travel because the only person you have to blame for anything is yourself. I mean, obviously, train delays happen, flight cancellations, but outside of that, you truly have to take responsibility for going somewhere or not going somewhere, or maybe, well, missing that train or not making it in time for that flight. Those things can be really confrontational, and I think it's really important to be able to kind of do that in order to better know who you are, and that helps you, I think, with, well, self-knowledge, but also maybe a little bit of confidence, especially once you achieve having done that trip. I also think it gives you a great sense of independence. You're doing something really on your own, and everything has to, well, basically come from you, especially if it's you who planned out the trip. And it really tests your decision-making skills in order to, yeah, basically have a good trip. That's one of the things, like, oh, am I gonna eat this tonight or this? And then it's all up to you. You need to make that decision. And I think for me, it was also hard sometimes to make decisions, and solo travel really helped me see that I can take those decisions and just own up to them more easily. And the beauty of it is you're only dealing with the consequences of your own decisions. So if you don't like it, you only have yourself to blame. And then it comes back to the point of being able to have accountability in yourself. So some challenges for solo travel, which I think are also worth talking about, because you need to be able to combat them, in my opinion, is first of all, it's really easy to just be inside of your hotel room and not go out. It can sometimes be a little fatiguing to go out, and if there's no incentive to go out, I mean, of course, the incentive is travel, but sometimes you just want to, you know, be in the hotel room and rest. And in some cases, that is actually not when you would look back, that's not something you would have wanted to do. You would have wanted to visit more attractions. I already noticed this on earlier solo trips I took. I took one to Madrid, and there I already noticed this. I think it's really important that if you're going somewhere that you already have a list of things you can do. I think that makes it much easier to just go out and start doing stuff you want to do than coming to a place with a blank slate and thinking, okay, what can I do here? Well, actually, let me just stay in my hotel room, chill for a bit, and then suddenly it's a few hours later and you've, well, wasted your travel time. Of course, it's up to you if that's actually wasted time or if that's time you would have actually wanted to spend on attractions. I personally like to go out and explore more. So anytime that happens to me, I'm like, oh, I actually want to explore there. So maybe I should have some list ready for the next destination. So I know that I won't have any excuses not to go out, basically. And that comes back to the point of what you only have yourself to blame again, because this is really how solo travel is. But I do really think it's something really, really valuable that you can take away from solo travel. So what I think solo travel is good for as well, I briefly mentioned it before, is building confidence. Building confidence is one of the main things that I really, really got out of solo travel, because you can basically be proud of yourself that you did something like this. I think it's really valuable to be able to say, oh, I took this trip alone. I took this trip to this destination and I didn't know any of the culture. I had not been here before, and I basically navigated this and made it into a successful trip. I think that is such a confidence boost, and I think it's so, so valuable what you can get out of basically solo travel. I think it's so valuable to be able to look back onto your trip and be like, wow, I did that. I totally planned that out. I took the opportunity to go there and basically was able to take a deep dive into this culture, go to these attractions, and I did it all by myself. I think that's a really, really empowering part of solo travel. And that's why I really, really recommend that if you haven't yet, to go on a solo trip. It's such a good feeling. So if you're a first-time solo traveler, I can recommend you a few tips. For me, what helped was first going with a group trip, essentially an organized trip by a travel organization like Intrepid. I went with Intrepid to Colombia, and I think it was such a cool experience. I basically got to meet a few people who are all, well, like-minded people, and take this amazing journey. I went from, well, basically the capital, Bogota, to the coffee region, to the north of Colombia. And I think it was such a cool trip, which I took together with some people who, well, are also really into travel, obviously, because they've chosen to travel there. And looking back at that, especially also during the trip, I noticed like, oh wow, I could actually do this alone. It's like, obviously there were some activities which I would never have been able to do without a travel organization, which is why I definitely think those have a value too. But going there, I think I could have done the trip by myself if I wanted to, and seeing that really gave me the confidence to go on that China trip later that year. And I think that's also a really good first start if you want to start solo traveling. So the reason for taking this trip was a little bit of a personal one. I went to China specifically because I would have studied in China for a year on a scholarship to learn the Chinese language. But unfortunately, due to a certain virus, that was not possible. I ended up having to take half a year of online classes and ended up never going to China. So I just decided to look for a job instead of waiting for me to be able to go to China, essentially. I took this trip really to make up for that, and I also wanted to highlight that knowing the language is incredibly valuable. Even just a little bit, because my Chinese is not that good. I only studied it half a year in university, and I studied it on and off in my own time. I'm trying to pick it up again, and I want to make a video about that as well, so stay tuned for that one. But I think knowing the language is so valuable. Being able to speak a few words It's such a valuable thing to be able to do. So I definitely recommend that if you have a solo trip, to at least study a little bit of the language, know the basic phrases. And of course, nowadays it is quite easy to look it up with a translator. And I think those are very valuable as well. But I do also think that being able to say thank you and say just, you know, the basic phrases is a really cool skill, and people will really appreciate that as well. As a conclusion to this video, I really want to urge you to try out solo travel. I would say you can even start with just a weekend away in a city not too far from you. I think it's a really valuable thing to do, to be able to discover yourself and discover the world around you, because you're much more grounded into the world around you once you're solo traveling. So if you have any stories yourself, if you have anything you want to add, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your solo travel stories. And for now, don't forget to subscribe. If you like the video, give it a like. I will be making more content surrounding productivity, language learning, and personal development. So if you are into that, please subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.